Namaste.
Good evening, friends, comrades. About more than a month back, Comrade Krishna Chakravarthy, who was a very renowned leader of SUCI, member of their Politburo, Central Committee, President of the Trade Union, held many other designations also, passed away. And after that, we have written about him, pasted it on the wall of Facebook. We have also held some meetings, Zoom meetings among the members of our organization. Samakalina Samajika Samskrutika Vedike. We have exchanged our opinions in such a meeting. It was not a formal memorial meeting, but it was a very intimate, very emotional meeting of all his old comrades who are available in Bangalore with us. And we had an exchange of views. And the immediate provocation for what I am discussing now is a memorial meeting organized by UTUCLS, a trade union organization, yesterday. In that meeting, Comrade Pravas Ghosh, the General Secretary of SUCI-COMMUNIST, spoke for quite a long time. And after listening to the entire speech, hope I haven't missed anything, tried to follow everything that he said. We felt very disappointed that the real purpose of a memorial meeting was actually missed. You don't simply hold memorial meeting for anybody and everybody without a purpose. When you hold a memorial meeting, you speak on the man, his contributions, and you consider that his contributions overweigh his limitations, if any. That's why a memorial meeting. And the object would be to show certain qualities which others can pick up. So in a memorial meeting, you cannot be hesitant, you cannot be indecisive on what you are going to say. You cannot be unfair to the man, and you cannot be speaking out of the focus on somebody else. It is not a memorial meeting of anybody else. It is not a meeting to praise anybody else. It is a meeting to commemorate Krishna Chakravarthy. We felt the meeting did not serve that purpose. So there was an urge among us to discuss, and we have been discussing, and we have been again writing on it. Yesterday also we wrote about it. Today also we have posted about it. And in course of this informal discussion has come. And at the outset I will tell you, this is no formal memorial meeting or lecture. Neither I nor other members of our Vedike, senior members, feel that we are capable of evaluating him comprehensively. There may be many facets of Krishna Chakravarthy which we do not know. We saw only a part of him. For fairly long time, nearly 40 years, we have seen him, talked to him. But in spite of that, there could be many facets that we do not know. We have not seen him in his young days. And last days also we missed him, terribly missed him. And other qualities that we haven't seen could very well be there. And what we have grasped, some other comrades in some other states may disagree with it. What we consider as positive may not appear as very positive to them. And they may have something very much negative to tell about him which we do not know. So we don't try to make any comprehensive evaluation of Krishna Chakravarthy. You can say it's a reaction of us, the important comrades of our Vedike, when we exchanged whatever has evolved, more or less a consensus of that feeling I would like to present. And I shall be often speaking on behalf of me because experiences flow from my own interaction with him or seeing him. And more or less that may represent others' views also. As I have said in an earlier writing for Facebook, that I saw his name first on a wall of a college, where it was declared that he would be addressing a meeting on the Chikmagalur by-election where Indira Gandhi contested after her defeat in Uttar Pradesh. I noted his name because we were all youngsters at that time, maybe just 19 or 18, and we were hungry for leftist ideas. And I had also heard of SUCI through one intellectual, Shudra Srinivas, as early as 1976-77. But I neither understood anything nor read anything, and it had not left any deep impact in me. But 78, I very clearly remember that I was interested. I wanted to meet him, see him. It did not happen. Later on, I saw him in a very small meeting in Gandhi Bazaar, an extension in Bangalore. The comrades who organized the meeting, they were very inexperienced. So the meeting was not even properly lit. There was not even a dais. They had put a table and some very ordinary chairs on the ground. And the people who had gathered in that park, it was a park, they were absolutely not attracted by this meeting. And the first speaker was also very much lackluster. So people were smiling, laughing. That was a Kannada speech, of course. But then Krishna Chakravarthy stood to speak. And there were very few people, very few, including the three of us friends who had gone there. We were also laughing. We weren't very serious. We had seen many political meetings, but this was the poorest political meeting as far as the organizational part of it goes. So we were naturally smiling, laughing, making fun. But once he started speaking, our light-hearted mood went off. We listened for pretty long. And he could convey his seriousness to the audience. After he started speaking, there was no longer any frivolous mood among the listeners. He could transfer his seriousness, his mood to the audience. Whatever it is, it was a fleeting meet. Then after, he held a school of politics that was in Gokula Institute, Malleshwaram, upstairs. Again, myself, Simadri, Umesh Chandra, we all went there. We were very fond of Che Guevara. We all the three went there with a cigar. We sat in the front row. And it must have been a very odd scene that youngsters holding cigars sitting in a meeting. But the thing about Comrade Krishna Chakravarthy was that whenever he came to these new states like Kerala, Karnataka, Andhra Pradesh, or Tamil Nadu, I think he was wise enough not to impose his sense of decorum of meetings, his sense of discipline of party building or anything. He went along with the youngsters. How much we understood, I do not know. I can't remember, but we threw many questions to him about Gandhi, about Lohia, about Jayaprakash Narayan, because those were the hot topics those days among us, the total revolution, all these things. And he answered patiently, and the school probably went on for 2 or 3 days, I don't know. And some of it I missed, I didn't go. But he left a very deep impression. He was sitting there, a very frail man, wearing a waistcoat and a hairstyle with a slight bald head. I remembered he was looking like magician Mandrake. We joked about it. And he had a hypnotic spell on the audience. That's why I say magician Mandrake. That was the next meet. Then after, some of my friends, cousins also attended his schools of politics, repeatedly held. And gradually, in the process of this, we had many discussions, and with Radhakrishna also. And all of that impressed us. And I was associated with SFI. I left and joined the party. Then onwards, I remember many aspects of Krishna Chakravarthy. Only that I narrate. One of the things that impressed me was his confidence. He was a very confident man. Even if there were only 10 or 12 people in a public meeting, 10 or 12 people, he would be addressing as if he is talking to 1 lakh people. Sometimes I have seen him addressing huge meetings also. Once in a joint meeting of different political parties. He was given a very short time, but that day there were maybe 20,000 people or so. The seriousness with which he addressed that meeting, same seriousness or much more seriousness he used to exhibit when he addressed a small meeting of 10-12 people. So much so, in Bangalore many people used to make humor of him, that he takes such small audience with such seriousness. Once, probably on the 4th anniversary of the left-front government, that's in 1981 I think, there was a big program in town hall, and we were arguing with the state secretary of CPM, M.K. Bhatt, myself and Sibadri. And in course of that, M.K. Bhatt cracked a joke that your Chakravarthy addresses 12 people as if there are 12,000 people. And I was one of the 12, he joked. Actually, we didn't reply to that. We took it just as fun, left the matter. And coming back, Simadri reported it to Krishna Chakravarthy, that the CPM made joke of you that you are addressing 12 people as if there were 12,000 people. I think Casey was a little taken aback or angry, I don't know, but he made a very witty reply, and that was his conviction also. He said that some leaders can speak with spirit only if there are 12,000 people. But for me, even if it is 12 people and they have some seriousness, I am going to speak with the same conviction. My friends, this was not a talk. I have seen him do it. I have seen him do it repeatedly, and that's what inspired us. We have also built party in different districts where sometimes we had to face an audience of 5 people or organize a procession of 3 people, 4 people. We were glad that we could hold a banner. We were so small. But what inspired us or what gave us confidence to do it was the way he behaved. It was not just a talk for him. He used to behave as if he is the leader of a very big political party. Once the government of S.R. Bommai fell, it was a Janata Party government. And Ramakrishna Hegde was the leader at that time. It was 1989. Then Ramakrishna Hegde, the government fell because of the internal squabbles between different factions of Janata Party. And Congress took advantage of it and dismissed the government. So Ramakrishna Hegde said that because of our mistake, the government has fallen and we atone for it. And he sat on a hunger strike. Probably in some old tradition of Gandhiji or somebody, that there is a sin that we have committed. So we atone for it. Reading this in the newspaper, Krishna Chakravarthy said that this is a wrong line. We have to whip up the sentiments against Congress. This Congress is fascistic, authoritarian, and it doesn't tolerate the existence of state governments led by other opposition parties. So instead of highlighting that, Ramakrishna Hegde is doing a very big mistake by sitting on hunger strike for atonement, repentance. So let's go there. I remember, I followed him. I arranged for that meeting between Janata Party leaders and our party leaders. Then Casey, Radhakrishna, myself, Uma, Jayalakshmi, some 5 or 6 of us went there. He was sitting in a shamiana and he was reading a book. He was much older than Casey. I think he must be 20 years old And Ramakrishna Hegde's image at that time was very high. He was projected as the next Prime Minister of India. And he was a hugely popular Chief Minister of Karnataka at that time. He had just resigned as Chief Minister. Bommai had become Chief Minister. Krishna Chakravarthy simply walked into the Shamiana. The way he used to walk, as if he was very confident that he commanded respect of everybody. He just went there. People offered him chair. Sitting there as if he was talking to an old pal, he told Ramakrishna Hegde, "You are wrong. Mr. Hegde, I think you committed a mistake." I think Hegde was taken aback totally, because hardly anybody would speak to him with that kind of a style or voice. He just smiled and said, What? He said, "You should have shown the pluck to fight back Congress side. You are not to atone. If you give this message to the people of Karnataka, how will they understand the injustice of Congress and fight back? Your slogan should have been different." Anyway, Hegde smiled. He was also a very seasoned politician. He didn't make an issue of it. He understood the purpose of our visit. He said that your support is required. In a way, you are right. We will launch a movement. We will need you. No movement was launched. That's another thing. They were not forces of movement. That's a different matter altogether. I was only telling you about the audacity of Casey. Then, within a day or two, Comrade Krishna Chakravarthy had to fly to Bombay, and in the flight he saw Ramakrishna Hegde. And Ramakrishna Hegde was in executive class. But nothing would stop Casey. From his seat, he simply walked to the executive class, sat next to him and said, "Hello, Mr. Hegde. How are you? Are you going to Bombay? I am also going." And again, same kind of talk. I don't know how much Hegde relished it, because that kind of a commanding talk many people wouldn't relish. But Casey had his way. And Hegde presented him a book. I still remember that scene. He signed, not in the flight, I'm telling about the earlier meeting. He signed a book and gave him and said that it makes very interesting reading, Krishna Chakravarthy, you must read this. So these are some of the incidents, how he used to treat his political friends. I have seen him. MP Prakash was once the Speaker of the Assembly and a very renowned politician. He was on number 2 in the cabinet. Casey, whenever he used to meet him, would again speak like a teacher. Sometimes I have felt that it shouldn't have been. It shouldn't have been. Those politicians needed a slightly different handling, perhaps, to develop friendship. But Casey's personality was like that. He felt he's capable of telling them something which they do not know, and he would express it very audaciously. Another incident that I can quote, though I was not direct witness to it. We had enrolled one of the most famous living poets of Karnataka at that time, M. Gopal Krishna Adiga. Professor Adiga, I think he got even Kabir Samman, a very high award in literature. Adiga was a very nice man. He stood by us when others didn't stand by our language committee. But personally, he had a soft spot for RSS and their ideas also. But as far as we were concerned, he consistently upheld from our forum secularism and democracy. He even became a member of CPDRS, not member, a leader of CPDRS, Committee for Protection of Democratic Rights and Secularism, which was formed by SUCI. But Adiga always used to say that I ideologically differ with you. So far, so good. As long as certain demands of you or opinions of you I agree, I will sail with you. Now, after all this, Adiga one day decided to again contest from BJP. I don't know whether it was 89 or 85, 87, some time. When we heard that, we could have kept quiet. It was his individual decision. But Casey wasn't like that. He felt that I respect Adiga and he respects me. So I am duty bound to tell him where he is going wrong, and I will tell him. So with that mind, he took Dr. Jagirdar, a comrade of us, and went to his house. I remember the details quite clearly because Casey told it to me repeatedly, Jagirdar told it to me repeatedly. It is not just Casey telling. And then another very famous poet, Dr. B.C. Ramchandra Sharma, who was present that day in Adiga's house, narrated the same thing to me. So it's verified truth. So Casey walked into Adiga's house. Adiga offered him a seat and there were pleasantries, after which Casey directly came to the point and he would come to it very bluntly. He told him, "You have done a mistake, Mr. Adiga." Again, Adiga was 25 years older than Casey. 20 or 25 years. And Adiga had a stature. Adiga wouldn't take anything from even seasoned politicians. He was a personality. Now, how could one talk to him like that? I think Casey had that kind of conviction. He said, "Adiga, you are wrong." And he asked, "What?" "I all through respected you, but you have gone and contested from a communal organization." Now, Adiga became furious. He was a very emotional man, Adiga. He started telling, "You communists, you do not understand. We Hindus have been wronged. Your view is always one-sided." And Adiga stood up. Casey also stood up. And Casey said, "Adiga, you must cool down and listen." Suddenly, Adiga felt very humbled, shy. He sat down and continued the discussion. And in spite of his emotion, Casey had some very good persuasive abilities. He told Adiga, "You see, Adiga, we respect you because you are a Democrat. But if you lose," actually Gopal Krishna Adiga felt very much thrilled when he got such a certificate. He said, "Don't you feel like that, Chakravarthy? I am a Democrat. I will uphold democracy." The story is little different after this. Adiga did not uphold democracy consistently. He did go with the rightist forces, communal forces, sometimes. But that is another story. But this unhesitating quality of him, once while discussing with some of us youngsters, Comrade Asit Bhattacharya said that Comrade Ghosh used to tell us that when you go to a new place to organize, you should have the devil-may-care approach. These are his exact words I am repeating. And I like that expression very much. Because we didn't always have that. But who had it? Where did I find the best expression of that devil-may-care attitude? That courage, that audacity? That was in Krishna Chakravarthy. And if you ask me, I am a very small man, very humble man. I am not a member of any political party. Don't claim any big character for myself or ability. But as an ordinary man who has seen Casey, I can tell you that it is this quality which inspired comrades all over South India. This audacity to give up their career, to face everything, even attacks from enemies, police, and face. Yes, I know very well the SUCI comrades will say that basically it is Shivdas Ghosh thought and all that. I don't disagree. Basically it is the Marxist thought that inspires revolutionaries all over the world. But you also need a man who is the conveyor of that idea. If you find that the conveyor is inconsistent, the conveyor is telling a great idea but which he is incapable of carrying. If you feel that he is talking of revolutionary audacity but he is himself a coward, a vacillating man, then I feel, friends, that such a speech will have no effect on us. But this man could have that effect because he lived like that. Another quality, apart from this, which I feel is his ceaseless effort in building party. Yesterday, when Comrade Raj Ghosh addressed a memorial meeting organized by a trade union, we were shell-shocked, to tell you. Why a trade union will organize memorial meeting for Krishna Chakravarthy? What great role he had in trade union. Yes, to a great extent, you may say, Pritish Chanda was identified with the trade union movement. Or earlier to that, there were some other leaders who are identified with trade union movement. But not Casey. Casey guided our early trade union experiments in 1982. I remember it. When we formed union in Austria Ideal, in Moni and Company, and all that. But then he was not a trade unionist. He didn't know trade union that much. He only used to guide us to go to lawyers, learn from them, or talk to the CPI, CPM leaders, find out certain subtleties of trade union organization. But he was himself a man deeply involved in building party. Forgive me if I say that I see a lot of DSO type of mentality and organizational abilities in Comrade Praj Ghosh. But KC, once he left DSO, he had nothing to do with DSO mind. He had party mind. He was a party organizer. And the basic abilities to bring uniformity in thinking and approach, which is the cornerstone of SUCI party building, he was very capable of that. As far as I have seen in SUCI, the ability to tell the basics of Marxism in a precise way, almost like a scientific definition, that quality Krishna Chakravarthy had. Another man who had theoretical ability and who was also very firm in delivering it was Ashu Banerjee, the much I have seen in him. But it was very difficult for any of us to go near Ashu Banerjee, let me tell you frankly. But it was not the case with KC. With KC, you could argue. You can go on arguing, you can go on differing, and he will not give up his point. That was his beauty and that was his problem. Often he could be obdurate with his views, stubborn with his views, a streak of adamancy. But you could argue with him. In argument, he never had disrespect. He would never have a condescending attitude towards juniors. He would never say that you don't know. He would say fight. Many times, many comrades after some time used to feel that you are very stubborn comrade and we can't change you, so we'll stop the discussion. He used to say, fight me and become more stronger than me. Don't give up. And he used to defend his stubbornness. I can say this with a smile. He used to defend his stubbornness by telling that fighting me, you will become more strong. That's another thing, but he shouldn't have been stubborn. That point remains. But he could enjoy a fight. He had the mind of an intellectual boxer. He could give a blow, take a blow. This is another quality I enjoyed with him. Sometimes suffered also. There were many differences with him. And I carried those fights with him for years, sometimes decades. They were not settled and there is no way to settle it now. I differed very strongly with him on the issue of elections, that all elections in India are rigged. I felt that it is a very preposterous claim and a claim to satisfy some junior comrades about our electoral setbacks. Nothing more, nothing less. But it is a very unscientific conclusion. About whether Ramayana and Mahabharata can be understood or represented in a realistic way, he had his views, I had my views. About how to evaluate Rama or Arjuna, he had his own views, we had our own views. He would paint entire Ramayana in the light of Meghanad Vada. We would differ, that there are different Ramayanas in different parts of India. And your view is not correct. But comrades, why I repeat this is, I differed with him on so many analyses. And he thought that I was very arrogant. Sorry, not arrogant. He might have thought I was very egocentric or individualistic. One day after one such tough fight, I went and told him, Comrade, did I hurt you? I think I am a very arrogant man. My father once told me that I am arrogant. He said, no, I don't feel you are arrogant. I think your father's evaluation is wrong. You are fighting for your view, I am fighting for my view. I enjoy, and then I am forgotten. But I think my view is right, he said. I said, no less, I also feel my view is right. He said, it's all right, we'll continue discussion. But the problem is, continuing the discussion, I wouldn't find that he's yielding. And even today, I would say that if we meet again, if we were to meet again, we would both be having the same stance and the discussion would continue. And he had a peculiar understanding of submission. He used to say after a long discussion, then you must submit to the decision of the party. You should carry no grievance. No grievance. Your submission should be voluntary and happy. Yes, comrade, it's voluntary, not under duress. Happy. I am happy because this is the best thing that can be done if I am to be in an organization. But then he would say, you should believe it to be true. And I would differ with him totally and say that I cannot believe it to be true. I will keep on thinking about it. I can come up with a new argument. Even after that decision is carried out also, I can still come back. So it keeps churning in my mind. In any human being, unless by reason, logic and facts a man is convinced, he will not give up his idea. And Lenin has not said it. Lenin has said the opposite. Mao Zedong has not said it. He has said the opposite. Liu Shaoqi has not said it. He has said the opposite. So, if you say that this is the party's concept of submission, then I do not agree. On this, we have fought for decades with him. But with mutual respect, friends. He was very upset with me on such issues. And he told many comrades that Manjunath has no concept of submission. He lacks it. And those comrades would even come and make fun of me. It used to hurt me. But neither I changed my opinion, nor I developed any grievance about Krishna Chakravarthy. To the best of my knowledge, I didn't develop. And much later, he once said that it's okay. Manjunath really respects his leaders. There is no point in that. When I heard that, I was happy. Here, what happened to me, what I felt is not important. I have only said it to highlight that quality of Casey, that after I differed with him for such a long time, he did not become personal with me. Has he anywhere else become personal? Has he done some injustice to any comrade in any part of India? As I said in the beginning itself, I do not know. It's possible. This is the view that I have of him. Another quality that impressed most of us is that coming from Bengal, he built the party in South India. Yesterday, when Comrade Pravash Ghosh was trying to picturize as if it was a very simple affair coming to South India and organizing, we felt very much shocked. This is not the way to understand Comrade Krishna Chakravarthy's style. Those who have done a little of it can understand what's the value of it. That you paint that some Nachiket went to Kerala, he had contacted. This is the way of telling that 50 years of struggle of Comrade Krishna Chakravarthy was nothing. Some engineering teacher went there, gathered some boys, as if that is the most important point to be talked in the memorial meeting of Comrade Krishna Chakravarthy. Is it fair? Is it just? Many people come as contacts to us. They even contribute. This is my limited experience when I built the party in different districts. Somebody gives a contact. Somebody comes in the beginning. But the organizer who goes there will have to stay there, will have to struggle, will have to change people. That effort, instead of highlighting, you will highlight one Nachiket. Then Comrade Pravash Ghosh says, I went to Madurai, got down somewhere in a railway station, maybe 1975. I went and tapped the doors of a medical college hostel. They did not open, finally opened. I left a book. It is not a small incident, it's a very big incident. I had never told it before, now I am telling. And all this, comrades, this doesn't convince anybody. This doesn't convince anybody. We have all gone to different places, given some literature here, there. Sometimes it bears fruit, sometimes it doesn't bear fruit. What has it got to do with describing the growth and development of party in a state? How much effort you have to make to convince every man? How much frustration you undergo when they leave the party? How many times you will be writhing in agony when you lose something in the state, in an organization? The man who does that, give him credit. Don't try to tell the side stories and divert the focus. It is this dissatisfaction with the memorial meeting that we heard yesterday that we are speaking these things. This is not only my feeling. All the comrades in Bangalore in our group who saw felt very much disturbed. So also about Andhra, Karnataka. Mr. Shivaram Krishnan is a very good friend of me even now. Very much older than me, if I may be permitted to call him a friend, because we are very friendly now. We often meet, talk. GSR had his own contribution. But is that the story to be told on the memorial day of Krishna Chakravarthy? Pravash Ghosh came 2-3 times to Bangalore. I know that. I know the entire story, whom all he met, and what kind of an asthma attack he had. Everything I know, because he has told me so many times, necessarily or unnecessarily. But that is not the point. To build the organization beyond Shivaram Krishnan, to Prabha Radhakrishna, who was a helpless boy studying in IIT Madras. This is not to belittle Radhakrishna, the only son, a very young boy. And he was often confused by some of the intellectuals in Bangalore. When Krishna Chakravarthy came to know, he had to rush from Delhi to give strength. And he gave strength. And one thing I will tell you, he loved Radhakrishna very deeply, very, very deeply. And such love none of us have got. We had a lot of contradiction and bitterness with Comrade Casey. But all his love he poured on Radhakrishna like a son. Almost till his last days in Bangalore, whatever Radhakrishna told him was final. Without an iota of disbelief, he would follow Radhakrishna. Never he made any unethical criticism of Radhakrishna in front of us. He till the end believed that Radhakrishna is the best man to lead the organization in Karnataka. That was his belief, his evaluation, his emotion for Radhakrishna. If any man tells contrary to this, he is a liar, a congenital liar. If anybody has misunderstood him on that, that is their fate. They are condemned to that fate. Anyway, he had that kind of tenacity in building the organization. That built the organization in all the 4 states. It was not a joke, friends. You come to a place, no money in your hand. He came during the language movement of 60s. No money, stayed months together in Chennai. Somebody fed him. Somebody gave him shelter. Somebody purchased him soap to wash clothes. He was so undaunted and so purposeful, he stayed here till his purpose was completed in Chennai. He went back. Same is his struggle in Delhi in the early days. As far as I know, if Pravash Ghosh knows more than him, I salute him. I want details. But I know just thought is not enough. A carrier is required. And that carrier was Casey. Marxist thought or the ideas of Comrade Shivdas Ghosh may be very powerful, but you need an equally powerful carrier. A man who can enter deep into the social life of South India. You know, India, we call it a country, a nation. But in Europe, India would have been several nations. So diverse in culture, so different languages, so different politics. But if you had spoken to Casey, you would have understood. He knows DMK, ADMK, their internal politics like fingertips. Would there be limitations? Maybe Tamil Nadu comrades will find a lot of limitation in that. But I can tell you, he was not a tourist. He had not come here to see from above, make some remarks and go. He knew Tamil Nadu politics. So also he knew Kerala politics. Whether it is Kerala Congress or Muslim League, all its factions, the leaders, every leader, even the names which are very difficult for pronouncing for a North Indian, they were easy for Casey, in spite of his Bengali pronunciation. He knew everything. He knew the politics of Karnataka so well. He had an exaggerated view of SUCI's growth, and on that basis he used to inspire us. That's all a different matter. But he knew Karnataka society. He tried to understand its culture. So, comrades, it's not a joke. If you are to tell youngsters, a memorial meeting yesterday, I'm not a party man, I'm not trying to inspire anybody. It's my tribute to a leader whom I once respected and loved, and if there is injustice to him, it's our duty to present a fairly correct picture without yielding to our own emotions also, a fairly correct picture. That's why I have made it a point to tell that we differed with him, we fought with him, we had many issues with him. But the man's right, the man's qualities, if we fail to recognize, then it harms us only. That's how I learned things in SUCI when I was there. Now, about another aspect of him, his ability to work, it was so enormous. I have never worked and I cannot hope to work like him. He used to sleep sometimes only 4 hours. And till he reached very old age, afternoon he was not sleeping, he was only lying down. And comrades can go on asking questions up to 2 o'clock. I've seen my son pestering him with questions at night 2 or 2:30. He was a small child. Casey never said go and sleep. He never told us, stop, I'm tired. Many leaders will easily tell, I can discuss up to 9 or 10 or 11, not Casey. For him to satisfy the comrades, any question was very important. He used to slog like anything. He was a perfectionist. Even in writing, he was a perfectionist. I can't do that, and I sometimes felt that he was too much fastidious about his writing, every word. But at the same time, I would like to pick up some of that quality because we all write in a hurry and forget. But he would wake up from his bed. 2 hours after finishing an article, he would wake up and he will come and say, can you help me? I like to add a word. Or he will say that word was not adequate. This sort of struggle for perfection I saw in him. And many comrades after his death have said about his interest in different fields. Even Prabhash Ghosh spoke about it. That's true. That's true. Among SUCI leaders, I haven't seen another man. Ashu Banerjee, I do not know very closely. But most of the others I have seen. And Casey had a certain versatility, whether sciences or humanities or basics of Marxism, literature, music. He had deep interest in everything. With great pains he drilled about Sharat Chandra. Great pains. He would exaggerate that he was the greatest writer of the world and all that. A tussle with him that myself and Simadri continued for decades. A tussle that I would continue with Prabhash Ghosh also, if there was an opportunity. We are basically against such kind of giving ranks, number 1, number 2, number 3 in world literature. But undoubtedly Sharat Chandra was very great and we needed that exposition. And while discussing Sharat Chandra, he has laid certain basics of evaluation of literature. What he learned from Shivdas Ghosh, from Marxism, into us, that has got distilled into us. We are very grateful for it. And to comrades who do not know Bengali, he would hold a Bengali novel, whole day, whole night. Those who have forgotten this must scratch their heart and tell how they enjoyed it. Today he is a fallen man and every Tom, Dick and Harry can throw a stone at him. You don't remember those things, comrades? Like sons and daughters, mostly daughters, who were always thronging around him, listening to him about Sharat Chandra's novels. Did you see anything bad in him at that moment? To evaluate a man, his weakness is another thing. That shall be done and you shall be merciless about it. We have no objection. But how he taught the finest feelings as represented in Sharat Chandra, whether it's man-woman relationship or dedication to revolution or upholding rational thinking or the subtle feelings of family life, he conveyed it so beautifully. Often he would lie down on his bed and go on reading the poems of Rabindranath, whether it was Karnakunti, Samvad or some other thing. And Meghnad Vada was his favorite. How much we have heard from him, all that. Though very repetitive sometimes. We needed some more nutrition than that. All that is separate thing. But he put his heart and soul in teaching all this. And his love of music, it had a very fine taste. I am not a connoisseur of classical music. I can only hear a little, enjoy a little. But he was striving always to listen to the best music. Amir Khan was his favorite. But Karim Khan was no less. Bade Ghulam Ali Khan was no less. Bismillah Khan was no less. And he made an effort to understand Carnatic music. With very keen mind, he started listening to Balamurali Krishna and M.S. Subbulakshmi and started appreciating it. Jesudas. Many songs of Jesudas he brought from Kerala and played it for us. Taught us. And on lighter songs, he was very fond of Tarapada Chakravarthy, I think, or Gyan Gosai, or some of the Nazrul songs, or Shobito Bhurata Datta, I think, those songs. He made us listen to it again and again and try to refine our taste. If Asit Bhattacharya does this struggle in Assam, I will not be very impressed, because Asit Bhattacharya has worked among the Bengalis of Assam mostly, and it is very easy to convey to them. Even if they are Assamese, it is relatively easy, because the cultures are similar. They are sister cultures. But the South Indian culture with its Dravidian background is a different cup of tea, comrades. Not so easy. And he did all that with credit. So, all these things I like to remember. And also remember his emotional faculties. When I met him, he thought of me as an SFI man who had to be cut to size. So often his discussions with me were very harsh. Even my ego was hurt sometimes. I feared him sometimes. But then the relation matured. That's a different story. But he had that kind of a personality. You feel he's an iron man, a man of steel. But perhaps in 1982, I think, Hiren Sarkar died. He was in Andhra Pradesh that day. And he had to travel. And a telegram came from the central office, probably from Sachin Banerjee, that we were to organize a memorial meeting. We couldn't get any hall in a primary school. With few benches we organized. There were hardly 15 or 20 of us that day. He came there, and when he started speaking, he could not continue. He was overcome with emotions about Hiren Sarkar. And such feeling again and again. His speech was interrupted for some time. Then he completed the speech. That day, my image of him as an iron man was shattered. But a different image started developing in me, that he's so human. So humane, a man of tremendous emotions. And now, these very emotions sometimes could have misled him, created problems for him. I am no judge of that. I can't judge him. Not easy to judge such a big man. But my differences I have said, and I will continue to say. With children, he was very gentle. My own son was a recipient of his love and affection, and I have seen. I was dry to my son many times. I did not help him much. Casey helped him. They were very good friends. If they were watching tennis, you will feel that two schoolboys were watching. He was very fond of football. He was very fond of cricket. And that's the thing I best enjoyed with him. I knew more cricket than him, so I used to share some intricacies of the game with him. He was a very good swimmer. He used to often play chess. And just to ease the atmosphere in the center, he would call all comrades and start playing carom. That was one of the finest moments. Comrades who are blaming him today shall remember that and then tell me whether my judgment was right or wrong. They all, like daughters, would fawn over him, enjoy the game. It was such an atmosphere I haven't seen outside a very compact and affectionate family. Outside of that, you cannot see that scene, that enjoyment, that laughter, that playfulness, and the way comrades used to make fun of Casey, forgetting that he is a leader. And he used to forget that he is a leader. These were fine moments. So, comrades, there are friends, there are memories and memories. Lot of memories. And he was a very good teacher in giving us the basic ideas of Marxism. So tireless, the schools of politics. He would start at 10 o'clock. All comrades would be hungry, and he will not be hungry. That was his problem. He could never understand hunger. His sister-in-law used to often tell him that, Krishna, you do not understand hunger. This was not boasting. I have seen him. He never said, 36 years that I have stayed with him, 36 years. I have never seen him telling hungry. That was probably some biological thing also in him, but to a great extent psychological thing also. He was an involved man. He never asked for comforts. The only comfort that he has asked was a mosquito net. He was very frightened of mosquitoes. If there was not a mosquito net, he would be upset. And there was a reason that if there was a mosquito bite, he would develop immediately rashes. Very bad rashes on his fair skin. They used to stand out like wounds. And if there is a single mosquito in his room, he cannot sleep. One day, some comrades from Andhra or Tamil Nadu, they told me a very funny story about him. That in the morning they went to wake up Krishna Chakravarthy and they did not find him on the cot. They searched and searched and searched. They did not find him anywhere. Then somebody said, under the cot something is moving. Then they bent down and saw that Casey was sleeping on the floor under the cot because mosquitoes had disturbed him whole night. So what he had done in the night, he had let the bed sheets fall to the ground on all the sides of the cot and he took shelter from his enemies right inside. This story everybody used to say and make fun. Casey, you are afraid of one thing, that is mosquito. Except this, I haven't seen him demand anything. Another thing he was wanting was a soft pillow. He couldn't sleep with hard pillows. But for this, his food habits, with due respect to Bengalis, I say, they are fish out of water if they don't have a fish to eat. But not Casey. I saw him for 15 or 16 years without eating a fish in Bangalore. Most of the times we gave him rice. He used to make joke that it is colored rice, what we call as rice bath. And sometimes he used to tell that this preparation is not good, you just give me rice, water and a bit of salt, a pinch of salt. I will finish my meal. And he would finish his meal. He was a very light eater. No particulars. And not a slave of routine. He had no routine. His concept was necessity dictates me what I should do at what time. If comrades want me to talk up to 3 o'clock in the night, I will talk. I don't care for my body, that it has to be protected, this and that. Shivdas Ghosh was like that. He always said that my body is not to be protected, it has to be used for revolution. I also believe in that. This was not talk. I have seen him do it. I have really seen him do it. Anytime, anybody. No formalities. If anybody tried to ask him for an appointment or tap the door or anything, he would say, no such things. You can anytime walk in. Anytime walk in. No question of you come at 5 o'clock, 4 o'clock, take an appointment. If there are too many people, he will tell you, wait, I will come. He will try to do justice to everybody. This was the informal thing. Very stern at times. I have had the worst of it, of his sternness. Sometimes he has been very harsh. But in spite of that, I will tell you, he was not a rigid disciplinarian at all. I have told you that story of cigars. First 4 or 5 or 6 years of Bangalore party, we were all heavy smokers and we would be sitting in front of him in all kinds of positions, postures, smoking cigarettes, asking Casey for matchbox. Then some people started scolding us. How audacious you are asking for matchbox from Comrade Casey. He is a central leader. But Casey neither felt nor said any such thing. In his serious discussion, sometimes matchbox would be flying from one corner of the room to another corner. And there would be 2-3 coconut shells, empty shells, in which 300-400 cigarettes would be there. And somebody, when they have run out of cigarettes, would take a worn out butt, smoked butt from it, start smoking again. Casey never tried to teach comrades hygiene, discipline, how to talk, how a leader should be addressed, how to stand, how to sit. None of that. His concept of discipline is discipline in your ideas, discipline in your thinking. If that comes, all the rest of the discipline comes in life. Not just talk, he demonstrated it. So, comrades, I think I have covered much of the ground. As for yesterday's memorial meeting, I do not like to say anything more. That a letter was written, this and that. All this except what? Except what? Was he not pained by the decision of the party to remove him from PB and CC? Did he not demand for a plenum? Was not such a plenum held with utter secrecy? He tried to defend himself, but he was punished. It was his standard that he took it with happiness. But was he convinced that it was fair? Don't think so. And he could have been very easily accommodated in many organizational capacities, not asking him to translate something. For that, Krishna Chakravarthy was not required. You could have used him better. Why you couldn't use him better? What were the reasons? These are questions which are going to persist in party life, and they need answers. They will demand for answers, honest answers, straightforward, forthright answers. Well, Comrade Krishna Chakravarthy is dead and gone. And after a very, very ignominious ending, he made very serious mistakes. When it was revealed to me by Radhakrishna on the 16th of June, to me and Jayalakshmi together, shell-shocked, we were shell-shocked. I couldn't even stand there properly. My head was reeling. But all that is past. He didn't challenge it. He was very deeply pained. He repented. That much I know. And these questions of life, if somebody likes to judge it in a Puritan way, without understanding the complications of life, I have no quarrel with such people. Let them have those ideas for themselves. But if you understand human beings, their life, the life of many great men, many great writers, painters, many people who led very sound lives, or if you even understand mythology, if you try to understand Vishwamitra or Ahalya or anybody, you will find that the answer to such questions is not easy. And the problems within the SUCI's party, its concept of life, how these people led unnatural life away from family, having no proper relations. All this, how much it contributed? It has to be assessed, comrades. And the blind worship which is there in the party, it's one of the most serious problems within the SUCI organization. Blind worship of leaders, cult of the leader. It's a very big discussion, how it started, where it started, who is responsible for it. But we see the effect of it even down to a DSO leader. There will be fans association around him. Limitations will be overlooked. They are adored, worshipped. And at a particular time, they become uncontrollable. And a lot of hypocrisy about such mistakes remains. Casey was not the first, and Casey was not the last in this type of problems and mistakes. So the tragedy will repeat, bound to repeat. In the days to come, the centralism will much more weaken. And then, as life in India, Indian society is also going to change. The problem centered around that. And without proper understanding of new concepts of morality, it will be a very puritanical, old, dogmatic understanding of life that will guide. Those are very worrying. Anyway, that's not my worry. SUCI should worry about it. If they have some sensible leaders who can think independently, not going by the dicta of the leaders, or by circulars, or going by precedents, this and that. If you can think independently, as independent human beings, if you can expand the horizons of your knowledge, look at the world. Look at the world. Gather those experiences and try to expand your understanding. Otherwise, more and more you will look like missionaries. And what kind of missionaries? Religious missionaries. Missionaries of a sect, where there is no osmotic exchange between the inside of the party and outside of the party. If you are interested in building such a sect has its advantages. So you will naturally feel more secure within a sect. If that's the fate that you desire, we have no quarrel. Have it happily. But we shall have the freedom to criticize that. A political party, a Marxist party, has to be built on different understanding, a different vision of life, a breadth of vision, very different from all this. Punish a man, no problem. But let there be uniformity, consistency, fairness, forthrightness, transparency, and uniform application of standards. And most importantly, let the party stop being a sect and become a broad political organization. Without that, you are punishing a man, you are trying to erase his memory, remove his books. A book on Charlie Chaplin, it was a gift to your party. I want to throw it. He had a very good discussion in, I think, Ravi Verma School of Arts in Kerala on art. You don't want to do anything with it. He discussed on Anna Hazare movement. He discussed on Kashmir question. On both these issues, I would differ with his conclusions. But they were essentially SUCI conclusions. Unless you tell now that you differ with it, what right you have got to ban those books? Nowadays I see that party publications means only Shivdas Ghosh and Pravash Ghosh. What kind of distortion of history is this? A man has to be weighed with his positives and negatives. If he has made a mistake, show it. If he has a contribution, remember it, uphold it. We feel SUCI has erred on all this. Anyway, Comrade Krishna Chakravarthy is dead and gone. He was very close to our heart. We have fought with him, we have differed with him, we have loved him. We have loved him. Still there are many memories with him which we love. And there are also many things to learn from his mistakes. To the extent possible, we understand it. We are very small people. The way we understand, we will try to learn from his mistakes. So, I think I have spoken very passionately, but one cannot but speak on somebody whom you held very dear and as a guide to your life for 4 decades without passion. I think that's not possible. That shouldn't be possible. That's all, but we are open. If there is any new insight about Casey, positive or negative, this is an ongoing exploration, ongoing study. We will be very thankful to anybody who can offer anything different than this. In the meanwhile, we end this exchange with all of you, and the communist movement has to become victorious. It has to become victorious. Basically, it is such a sound, comprehensive ideology. But the kind of parties that we built in our country or in other countries, it begs improvement, a lot of improvement. Old models no longer work. We have to honestly keep trying. And with our limited ability, that's what we are trying, comrades. We like to understand Marxism and take part in struggles, people's struggles, as much as possible, launched by anybody. It doesn't matter for us. And particularly in the Indian condition today, we need the broadest unity of the left, democratic, opposition parties against BJP and its fascist rule. While trying to do something, we are not young, some of us are young. We will strive to recollect all that we learned, everywhere, including SUCI, from Casey, and do away with the pitfalls that we found there. This is our honest appraisal. Neither Comrade Pravash Ghosh or any comrade of SUCI should mistake us, nor we have any hatred. But we have very serious criticism on them. We make it from public platforms. Just as they taught us that ideological debate is very vital. And they never hesitated. They do not hesitate, even now. Quite unnecessarily, they keep criticizing other left parties. But we feel we are doing it necessarily. And if taken in proper spirit, it helps SUCI, its leadership, and its comrades. It's our obligation to do it. and we will continue to do it without fear or favor. So, in the memory of Comrade Krishna Chakravarthy, this much. Spoken for long, very sorry about it. But if there is anything worth, please examine. Thank you. Namaste.